Hi, welcome back to the Corporate Burnouts. How you doing, Mandy?
I'm doing so good. How are you?
I'm doing good. You are sitting in an empty room. What's
I
happening?
am. I am. So, we ordered a new couch. And so we sold the other one on Marketplace and they just came and picked it up about like 20 minutes ago. And I didn't even think about that it would be completely missing for the podcast, but I'm just glad that it's gone and I had time to like vacuum and do all the stuff so that whenever they deliver the new couch tomorrow, we don't have any problems. So, except for I am a little bit nervous. It is a little bit bigger than our old couch. So it's not like a lot bigger. It's probably like, I don't know, 20 inches or something longer on one side and maybe both sides. Anyway, I'm a little nervous. We have this bar over here. We've talked about where we can put things to make sure that we still have great,
Walking
walking
space.
room
Yeah.
so it doesn't like take up the whole thing. But I'm afraid I'm going to get kicked out of my desk.
Well,
If it's too long and it
if it's
comes
too
up too
cramped.
close, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see. I don't know. I don't know.
I guess we'll have to wait till next week and see
Yeah.
what the new setup looks
Big
like.
reveal. I might be in a basement, so we'll see. I don't know. I don't
I
know.
don't know. Well, listen, at least you work from home so that you get to be there when,
Mhm.
obviously, when they came and picked up the couch and then when they deliver the new one tomorrow. There are
It
some
is
perks.
helpful. Yeah,
Yeah.
because some people have to, those it's only 11 to 2, the
Uh-huh.
window, which is good. But like for some things it's like 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. and you're like,
Yeah, like getting your internet installed or your cable
yeah.
turned on or whatever when you first move, you're like, "How am I supposed to just sit here for 7 hours?"
Mhm. Yeah, so I am glad that I work from home for that reason too, even though this is a much smaller window than some of them can be. But it'll be really helpful because some people have to take the whole freaking day off. And then
Yeah.
sometimes I remember I had appliances delivered. So I'm a big, like, I love the Labor Day sales and things like that. It was probably maybe 4:30 on Labor Day and I'm like, we've been talking about getting a couch. We need to go shopping today because we can get a good deal. But I did the
Yeah.
same thing on Labor Day a few years ago and got all new appliances for literally like nothing. It
So
was,
nothing. Yeah.
yes, it was amazing. But when they came to deliver it, I mean, I worked at home at the time. It's not a big deal, but I am there during their super long hour
Window,
stretch.
yeah.
Yeah. And they come and they're like, we didn't know that we had to go up the stairs with it. And I'm like, yes, you did. I mean, we definitely talked about that it was a second story kitchen and they just didn't give you that information, but it was the end of the day. Like they got there at like 5 o'clock and these guys were ready to be done. And they're like, we don't want to do this. And I'm like, I just waited for you for hours and now you're going to make me wait
Wait
until
again.
3 days from now when you can fit it in. I was sad. But whenever they came back, the guy had a different guy with him. He's like, I'm telling you, it wouldn't have been good with that guy. And I'm like, okay, that's fair. He's like,
Yeah.
you have to have someone experienced in getting these very big refrigerators up the stairs.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, thank you for saving me from, denting my walls and
Yeah,
new
the nightmare
appliances.
that that could have been. Gosh.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny, like, I know last week we talked a lot about working from home and the burnout that that can cause, and this is the flip side of that, right? Like, there are definitely some perks to that, but, like, going back to these same types of situations when I did have a work away from home job, I didn't really do the office thing, but you know what I mean? I can also remember not being able to be present for those things where really you couldn't and you have to rely on other people, whether it's your partner or you have to call in friends or family to like bridge the gap that you can't complete, and how much more stress that actually puts on you to have to rely on somebody else to do things that are not their responsibility. And it's not a fun thing to do for yourself, let alone to have
Hmm.
to do for someone else.
Yeah.
So yeah, count your blessings, girl. It's really great that you don't have to either dump it on Dan or
Hmm.
call a neighbor and be like, "Dude, can you just open my house when they get here?"
Right. And the thing is that we have done that. We had a stove delivered while we were out of town a couple years ago,
Mhm.
and the neighbor just came and let them in the garage and it was
Yeah.
okay. Like these things
Yeah.
are okay, but like that guy also has a job and it might not have worked out, but it was
Right.
just they were like, "Hey, we're coming." And we're like, okay, like we'll make
We'll
this work.
figure it out.
We have several neighbors, but there's so many things I think that we can miss out on when we are working outside the home and when we're prioritizing work over things that we want. So, like, for instance, I went in the middle of the day and got my hair done, but I put off getting my hair done for literal years. Like
Don't be mad at me, but I have a hair appointment today.
I'm not mad. I'm not mad because you can do
Speaking of
whatever you
hair,
want. Fit it in, right? Fit it in. But I wanted to get my hair done. My mom has always done my hair. So
yeah.
we would do it on a weekend and we would whatever, but I live 2 hours from her and I decided to get extensions
Yeah, I
and
was about
they're
to say, let's
yeah,
talk about your hair because
yeah,
I'm in love.
it's so fun. They're not longer. They just add volume because I have
Yeah.
really fine hair and it's just fun for me, whatever. But it's like when you work a 9 to 5 job and like you really have to take time off to get your hair done because I mean, how many appointments do they have from 5 to maybe 7,
Okay,
right?
well, the lady that does my hair has a little girl, I think she's kindergarten, first grade, like she's a kid, and her priority in life now is to be able to pick her kid up from school and go home and be a mom. So, like, it's fine for me. I can get my hair done at 1 o'clock today.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to take my kids out of school to go get their hair done now,
Yeah.
or we have to like schedule it out so far in advance that it's like she just happens to have this opening when school's out. Like it can be
Yeah.
a thing for sure.
And I
So
know that this isn't the biggest deal in the world, getting your hair done, but like I deserved to do something like this because
yes,
I have kind of hated my hair for a lot of years, right? And I'm like, it's time to do something like this. And Sarah with the Red Beauty Salon in New Melly, Missouri, she is I mean, she is amazing.
she's the
So,
one.
as you know, I have naturally curly hair today. It's just regular curled. But she took these, they're called hair lingerie and it's real hair and it's good hair. And she permed it and she colored it and she made it match perfect. And now I can wear my hair curly like I like to do most of the time. And I can wear it completely straight and I can wear it curled and I can wear it however I want. And I don't feel like kind of self-conscious about it because it looks like
About
I
it
just
not
have,
matching. It just looks
yeah,
like your hair,
it
which is
does.
great.
Like obviously I could lift it up and not with these on, but I could lift it up and show you, but like otherwise you can't see it. And she likes to say it's the world's best kept secret unless you don't want it to be, like no one will ever know. Obviously people would know if I had hair down to,
Yeah, if you
my
suddenly
butt.
grew a foot of hair.
Yeah, and the thing is that there is no shame in that, by the way,
Hmm.
but that's not what I wanted it for. I wanted it just to give me the volume, but I'm so happy with what Sarah did, and I just feel a little bit more confident because I know that I don't have thin hair, I have fine hair,
In
but
hair, yeah.
but it looks thin, right? Because there's
Yeah.
just not there's not any volume. So anyway, I'm really happy about it, and I'm happy that I had time to do it and
Yeah.
it was okay for me to make that priority because I have figured out how to balance all of that. That was not always the case for me. I was not a good work-life balancer. Like I was a work with a teeny bit of life sprinkled in person.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because this conversation kind of rolls right into what we wanted to talk about today. And it really is about the things that we sacrifice for the job and specifically the way it strains our relationships. Your romantic relationships, your friendships, your family, the kids, like all aspects of it. And you and I have in the same way, but also a little bit differently, have experienced that and come out the other side a little bit stronger, but on the other side of corporate. The thing for me, though, is that when I look back and I think about how I let work affect my relationship, for a long time, it was like, you know, well, I was at work, so that's, of course, we grew apart. Of course, I had to miss this or that or whatever with the kids
Mm,
because I had to work. But like at the end of the day, I don't think it's a corporate problem. It's a priority problem.
mhm,
And our situation was layered in that there was a lot of travel involved. So it's
mhm.
like I can't schedule a hair appointment at 1 o'clock and then resume normal life. I have
No, because
to
you're out of town.
right. I have to physically make sure that I'm in town and
Mhm.
then, schedule around that and make it work. And we did that for a lot of years. I'm not at all trying to say it's impossible, but it doesn't come without consequence. I just think that those consequences were actually avoidable. And again, it didn't turn out to be something that I thought was a corporate problem. It was a priority problem.
It was a complete priority problem, and the pressures of corporate and the competitiveness and the ladder and all the things that we've always talked about do compound that a lot,
Yeah.
I think, because I don't feel nearly as much pressure, even though, like, I should feel a lot of pressure because I have 3 salaries on my
Yeah.
shoulders to make sure that I work and do everything that I'm supposed to do every day. It's not even just me anymore that I have to support, but I think that it is a priority issue, obviously. And what I learned, really, like the be all end all of what I learned is that work can never be my first priority again, right?
Yeah.
And it was for so many years. And it's why I had relationships the way that they were. Like I definitely prioritized my friendships but I find myself doing that less and less. You know, I
Yeah.
still have my friends, but like it's hard to have the energy to spend time with them, right? I'm not
Yeah.
losing friendships. They're different now. They're just
Yeah.
they're different.
You don't have as much of yourself to invest, and that can be, so I mean, I think part of that is like getting older and having different priorities in life, and that's okay. But um sometimes it can be detrimental to the fact that you like have tunnel vision of like what you're doing. And I don't know if you've ever have you ever planned something with like with a friend after work or whatever, and then you get done with work and they cancel on you and you're pumped? And you're
So
like, "Oh, thank
that's
God." Like,
it's
I
been
didn't
my
even
whole
wanna go
life.
anyway,
Yeah.
right? Like, that's the worst feeling ever. I mean,
Mhm.
in the moment, it's the best because 'cause you're like, "Oh, thank God I can just go home and lay down." But at the same time, it's like, that doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel
No.
good to, like, be happy that you're breaking plans with somebody that means something to you because you don't have enough to give. And when you come out of it exhausted, you said something about not making work your first priority again, and of course we've heard it a million times about living to work versus working to live. And I don't think that was ever my mentality, that was like, "Oh, I live to work. I love this job so much." I did love my job and I definitely drank the Kool-Aid and I bought in and all the things. But it wasn't about that. It was about, that's where I was being fed, right? Like, that's
Yeah.
where I felt important, that's where I felt needed,
Yep.
that's where I felt like I was adding value. The flip side of that is, if maybe I'd focused a little bit more on my home life, on those connections, the relationships, whether it was romantic or with the kids or friendships or whatever, then maybe that's where I would have felt fulfillment come from, right? Like, if you give it the time that it deserves and the attention that it deserves, that's where, like, that's what's gonna feed you.
Yeah, I think so too. And we did get very settled into the culture that we were in and, like you said, drank the Kool-Aid. But it is good to look back and say, my priorities have changed, right? Your kids
Yeah.
were always your priority. However, they were still living their best life, right? So it's like it was all fine, but then it finally got to a point where you're like, I have to be here with them, right? That's
Yeah.
where you ended up drawing that line. It feels hard to give up because you feel like you're giving up on a career that you worked 18 years to build, 20 years to
Right.
build, but you didn't lose anything. You know, like you took that experience and took it somewhere else. I love that you brought it here, but basically what you said is I'm going to flip-flop this and say, even though my kids were great, they were happy in life, I'm going to make them the very first priority and I'm going to put my job second, right?
Yeah.
So you made that honest and that's exactly what I did. I obviously didn't have kids, but I put my personal life first. I'm like, I
Yeah.
am missing out on life. I probably have said that in every episode, but like I was literally missing out on life. I was just skipping so much stuff. There were times when we had a girls trip or a trip with my family or something planned for a weekend, and I would cancel because I just traveled all week, right? And I'm
Yeah.
like, the important trip should have been
Should have been
the
the personal one.
yes, and but I couldn't if I was gonna work that job, I couldn't cancel my week
Mhm.
trip, and now I'm just spent, and I can't do the one that would further create the relationships,
It would
and
fill your
now
cup. Yeah.
mhm, and that's the me problem of it, but also how much time did I lose with family, and it wasn't like I am sure that they felt it. I'm sure they're like, "This is bullshit."
Yeah.
Right? Like, because they had been looking forward to it or friends had been looking forward to it, and it does put a strain on relationships when you cancel because you're so exhausted by your job.
I was thinking about it while you were talking. I don't know about you, but I think part of this is how I was raised, right? Like we're talking about putting the kids first. Almost, well, the majority of the time that I was doing the job that I was doing and missing out on school things or having to say, sorry, I can't pick up. I know she's running fever, but sorry, let me call her dad. I can't be the one to pick up the slack here. In my brain, based on how I was raised, by putting my job first, I was putting my family first because the job is to support your family, right? And we can't have all these things or we can't do all these things and I can't support this life that you have
Uh-huh.
without this job. So I need to pour all of myself into this job so that then you have. But it's a really sobering moment when you have a kid look at you and say, I don't care if we have a swimming pool. I don't care about all these other things. Are they great? Yes. Would I be sad to not have them? Yes. Obviously, the time has come where they're like, okay, cool. This is how they live on the other side. But
Uh-huh.
when they look at you and say, can you just be here? And you're like, okay, all right, maybe I've sold myself the lie that I was putting you first by having this
Uh-huh.
job for myself. And I
Yep.
don't think it has to be either or, right? Like I don't think that I had to quit the job to have more balance. I think that the priority, kind of circling back to what I started with, the priority should have been being there first, being with them, showing up and even in the small things, right? Give me something that's important to you that I can commit to and schedule my life around that rather than scheduling my entire life around work because that is what I made the
Yeah.
ultimate priority.
I mean, everything that you're saying about the kids and the relationships of being there, and it makes me think about all of the vacations that and still today I have to work. I don't have to work the whole time. I make sure that I have gotten most of it done,
Yeah.
but there's time sensitive things, and it hasn't caused a full rift, right?
Mhm.
But I guarantee that there have been times where it's been like, can you just be present here on vacation?
Yeah.
We always say there's no marketing emergencies. And it's like, I know that. I do know that. And maybe it's a self-importance thing. Like maybe I could try harder to get everything done before I leave and only have to worry about fires. But even the fires, like we see stories all the time where people are like, I have to take my laptop on vacation and my husband is pissed, right? And
Yeah.
I've had pretty supportive, at least for the last few years, on that of I know you have to work. I have a business too. We got
Yeah.
stuff that has to happen. It doesn't just stop, and there's not an assistant or somebody who can run the
Yeah.
whole thing for you, but it does kind of feel like shit. It feels like shit whenever you are like, okay, I did the bulk of the day with the family, and now I'm going to duck out for
Yeah.
45 minutes and just make sure that nothing's on fire. And now they come back from walking down to the beach and you've missed something. And it's like, I wish that I wasn't focused on this.
Yeah. I used to tell myself with the kids, like, when I was traveling, I was usually gone. I would, be able to take them to school on Mondays and then I would be home by Thursday evening. And so I would tell myself that the only thing I'm really missing is like 30 minutes to an hour in the morning and then about 2 hours in the evening. So all in all, I'm sacrificing 6 to 9 hours a week. Because if I was at home working a normal, 9 to 5 or whatever, then there's the hour that it takes to, get them up and ready into school. And then afterwards, they would still have to go to daycare after school. I'll have some kind of after school care because I would have to have a job. And then by the time you get done with dinner and bath and homework or whatever, like that's like just a couple of hours in the evening. And then everybody has to go to bed. So I would tell myself, well, you're only missing out on, a couple of hours a day. It's not that big of a deal. And I was home on the days where there were more hours to be spent with them. So I'm very lucky in that. I didn't travel a ton over the weekends. So unless it was a random situation that fell that way. But all in all, it's like breakfast on Tuesday mornings is sometimes where the funny things happen. Or, you know, it's a kid that has a stomach virus at 10 a.m. on a Wednesday, and I'm not there for that. Like life still happens during those times. And I think it affected me from the guilt perspective more so when if everything had been going normal, I wouldn't have been needed and it would have been fine. But every day is not normal. Kids get sick or they need something or like there's schedule shifts and changes. And if you can never be the one that
Mhm.
picks up any slack from anybody else, it's going to have a strain on your relationships, not just with those kids, but with the other people that have to pick up that slack because you can't, right? Like,
It causes, yeah, resentments because they're like, listen, I have a job too. It's not
yes,
out of town, but now I'm freaking fixing lice over here. Like I don't have time for that, but they
I
have to
did travel
come.
home for the lice escapades.
Yes. But, like it's still, wasn't there one night where he's got all that stuff on their heads, like, or did you always take care
I
of?
always came home for the lice, but for whatever reason, he always, always, always got stuck with the stomach viruses and would be like,
Yeah.
"Well, I cleaned puke off the wall again." I'm like, "The
Yeah.
wall? Why were they?" Because they were running to the bathroom, and I'm like, "Put a trash can by the bed." And he was like, "I'm not good at this." And I'm like, "Good luck with the puke on the wall."
Right. In a normal, this is the same thing as you just said. In normal circumstances, there's not the strain on the relationship. But whenever things get hard, now we have resentment. And it's like her job doesn't allow her, or his job doesn't allow him to be there. And
Yeah.
now I'm picking up all the slack. And why am I this single parent
Yeah.
when they live here too? And I have to imagine that that has got to be the biggest balance ever, especially when you're the one with the either very flexible job
Mhm.
or the very inflexible job. It has to pull and tug on a relationship. It can't
Well,
always be smooth sailing.
I'll tell you that in the last couple of years of working from home now, roles have completely reversed. I am the only one that gets the phone calls in the middle of the day of I need this, I need that, or doctor's appointments, like all of the things. And I look at it so differently now than I did before. Those things were, they were always a burden, right? Like, who wants to go pick up your kid from school because they've got fever? You don't want your kids to be sick to start with, but like it's an inconvenience. But now I just look at it so differently. Like, I'm grateful. Like, I get to take my daughter to the doctor today. I'm not excited that we have to go to the doctor, but I'm just glad that I get to be here. I know in my heart that she knows that she can count on me. And while that wasn't something that I was like, "Oh, my kids don't think that I'm reliable," they knew that it was like, well, it might be mom, it might be dad, it might have to be grandma, like, who knows? They'll figure it out, but I know that I am the constant now.
Mhm.
And that's not to say that, like, their dad's not around or that there's not it's not about that. It's like I have inserted myself into this role with great pride and gratefulness of being able to fill that role so much differently than I was able to before.
Yeah, it's
But
just passing the baton. It's like, hey, why
yeah,
don't you sit down? You took on a lot of this for many years.
for
Like,
years. Yeah.
let me take care of this now, and he's still there whenever it's serious and on a
Mhm.
daily thing, but like you are picking up more slack than
Mhm.
you ever did. So I think that that's good. I think that it's good for, and I'm glad that your relationship could morph into, right? It, the relationship changed, the divorce happens, but you guys can
Yeah.
still be good co-parents because everyone's intentions are good. And I think that sometimes with work-life balance and the strain on relationships, if the communication is good and the intentions are good, usually you can work your way through it. I know that I'm not paying enough attention to my friends on a daily basis because, life and work and
Yeah. You
family,
should
it
really
all.
figure that out because I need you.
Are you serious? You think that I neglect you?
Last person who should ever say that. I get
No,
more of you
you're
than
not neglected.
anyone.
Yeah, you're not neglected, but I do need to keep some gas in the tank for spending time with friends
Yeah.
on the weekend. Um, and I know that I am now in a time of life because I didn't raise kids, but I'm now in a time of life where, like, for the first time, I am prioritizing kids and their activities and what they want to do more than being like, I'm going to make my own plans on the weekend, and if they want to come with us, then they can, like
Yeah.
it's not like that. So it does, every other week they're here. I'm not just going to be like, well, let's go hang out with Joy in the city and then let's go, do this. It's like they have to be factored in because we want to spend time with them.
Yeah.
And so it is a little bit different, but I know that if I worked less, I would have more time for that. I would have more, not more time. I would have more energy for
Energy.
it because I
Yeah.
have time in the evening. I've set that boundary, but there's usually not a whole lot left for
Yep.
it.
Yeah, and I think that, part of that is that we overschedule our lives, mostly at work. I mean, and we can have a whole episode on the calendar of it all, but the way that
Meltdowns that Mandy has when she has more than two things on her calendar in a day, we can talk all the way through that.
that is not fair. It's just a stark difference than my previous life where I mean, my Outlook calendar looked like Easter threw up on it, and it was
Mhm.
all color coded and it all meant something, and it gave me a sense of being organized and I felt like I had it together, but at the same time, the overwhelming anxiety that came from that, I was exhausted by looking at my calendar.
Yeah, because it's just jumping from thing to thing
Yes.
to thing. And now you've corrected that, right? And
Yeah.
you make sure that you have time for the work during the work day
Mhm.
instead of meetings, meetings, meetings. And then the work day starts at 5 o'clock because that's how we used
Yeah.
to live. Like, I'm glad that you are protecting your calendar in that way. It makes it so that you can spend time with your friends and family in the evenings, right? Like,
Yeah.
we all have to well, I'll have to figure that out. That was aggressive the way that I called you out,
It's
I
fine. I'm used to
but
it
I
because you're a bad
still
friend.
still have more trouble with that, right? Like, I make fun
Yeah.
of you for it, but it's like you're just protecting it because you know that you have a harder time on those days, right? Like, it's not the easiest day if you have a bunch of appointments and then now you still have to get the actual work done.
Yeah.
I am trying to keep myself to no more than 2 meetings a day because when I do get back to back to back, like this morning, I had a one-to-one and then a call at 10 and then this, and it creates this anxiety.
Yeah. And it
And
changes the way that you show up for the people that you are gonna
yes,
be with during that time.
yes. And I think that I don't know, like, once it's over, like, I feel a lot better, but just looking at today, it's a little bit it creates an anxiety that makes it not as enjoyable, and then I am in, like, fast forward mode whenever I get done with it to try and catch up, and does that wear on the other people in my life? Probably, because I'm not at my best, but if I have a few hours in the morning to get stuff done, and then one meeting here, and then get more stuff done, and then one meeting here, I am
Yeah.
I'm much more pleasurable to be around, for
Yeah,
sure.
the way that you schedule your work day definitely will dictate the quality of time that you have to give post work day
Mhm.
for sure. I think, in this conversation, we're talking a lot about past experience and things that we've changed. Me protecting my calendar now is has a lot to do with my stubbornness. I refuse to live that way anymore. I refuse to literally fall asleep in the bed with my computer and wake up tomorrow with a computer on my lap or beside me or stuck to my face, like those things
Mhm.
happen to me on
Mhm.
the regular. It's nobody else's fault but my own. That's the way that I structured my life. It's the way that I figured out how to get everything done that I needed to get done and be everywhere I needed to be for the people that were counting on me. It just wasn't healthy for me and I refuse to live that way now. So,
Yep. And you don't have to.
if the work doesn't get done, it's still gonna be there tomorrow, and I don't like that. No one likes the stress and the anxiety of not getting your work done and what that brings to you, but if I'm gonna sacrifice something, it's not gonna be whether or not, I'm gonna go watch this program of my daughter's, or like last night, I went and did the worship and workout with a friend at the church, which was actually really cool, and I'm sore today. I still had work that I could have been working on last night, and
Mhm.
I wanna say I didn't have plans. I didn't have other plans, there was
Mhm.
nothing like that I couldn't get out of or that I was so committed to somebody else that somebody was gonna be let down, but it's something that I wanted to do for me, and I just closed up shop and went and did it, and if I'm going to sacrifice at this point, it's not gonna be on the people in my personal life. I did that for far too long. I let it cost me. I mean, it's not single-handedly responsible for my divorce, but it was a big piece of that, and again, it's not a corporate problem, it was a Mandy priority problem. I can't blame that on
Happens.
anybody but myself.
It happens to the best of us. And the other thing that I wanted to add, because we've talked about spouses, we've talked about kids, we talked about friends, but while your personal life and the people who are important to you, regardless of who they are, they do need to come first. But I know that whenever I let work completely burn me out, all right, it happened
Mhm.
several times, and it put a strain on my work relationships too, right? Because then you start to I don't know, you get defensive about stuff that is falling through the cracks. You get annoyed more easily with, and it can really hurt a team when anybody on the team is burned out, let alone if everyone on the team is burned out. It creates like a tornado effect. I think that there's so many things to look at. We talk about boundaries a lot. That is a thing, with this, like you need to set your boundaries, but I think that this is more of a priorities before boundaries thing. What are your priorities and how do you set them
Mhm.
and then set the boundaries afterwards? Because I'm thinking about if I would have said, okay, I can still work this corporate job, but my family is the priority. Precedent that I set and the amount of hours that I worked and the amount of available that I was to everybody outside of my family. Could I have gone back on that? Right? Because we
Well,
saw people with excellent boundaries, but when did they set them?
right.
Because could I go from always available, you can count on me, to I'm not going to be talking to anyone after 6 p.m. I am not going to be opening my computer or email on Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to delete that Facebook post that went to the whole fucking company. You know, like, so fight your fires all by yourself. I'm out on the weekends or I'm out when I'm on vacation. So someone else has to find that login. I'm not even going to send that to you. Like, I can't even imagine what
Being able
what
to
that
do
would have
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
what that would have looked like. So, how do we give people advice on how to change this? If you are the all-in person at work and now you're like, "No, my priorities were wrong. I'm not doing my family right. I'm not doing my friends right. I'm not doing my coworkers right." How do you slowly back out
Yeah.
of that?
Well, you're right. It's very difficult to back out of being overly available, but I do think it's possible to repair the damage without causing damage on the other side. In our exact scenario with those things, I think that it starts with open and honest communication. I am letting myself, my family, whatever, I'm letting myself down in this way. And in order to bring the pendulum back to the middle, I need to make some adjustments, which means whether it's after 6 p.m. or maybe it's just between the hours of 7 and 9, I am not going to be available because I'm going to be making dinner with my family. I'm going to be really focused on, dinner, homework, bedtime, bath time, whatever that looks like. Or I'm going to sit down and watch a show with my husband and I'm not going to bring my phone into the room when I do that. Like, whatever that priority looks like or boundary that you're setting around, if you communicate those things first, well, it's like you said, like, first of all, in the world of marketing that we were in, like, there really is no emergency, even if there is a Facebook post that goes out to the whole freaking world. But if you communicate those things on the front end, then provide another resource, right? Like 98% of the things that we got reached out to for in those off peak hours, number one, weren't emergencies. It was something that came up and you just reached out because this is when you thought about it and you know that I'm going to make myself available. So you felt like it was okay to call. Um, or if you were just open your email, you already have the information that you were calling me for. So many of those things weren't actually emergencies. However, if there was one, for instance, maybe it's taking turns on the team where it's like, I'm not available from, this time to this time. This is not something that I can do. So if I have somebody that needs something, is it okay if I
Yeah, forward
shoot
them
them
to
over to
you.
you during that time? And it's like taking shifts. It's kind of like having an on-call schedule, And I don't think every job is necessarily like that. And not everybody works on a team, and not every team can actually fill in the roles for each other. So whatever that system looks like, I think that the starting point has to be communicating what the problem is and what your needs are, and then figuring out a system to not cause damage on the other side while you're able to repair the damage on your own.
Yeah. I love that answer, and really just reiterating the communication, because that your answer was when you have a boss and you have people who are expecting things from you. In our case, it's like we need to make sure that the client understands, like, hey, I am out of pocket right now, but I'll get back to you by 9 a.m. tomorrow
Yeah.
or whatever it is. And I think that as long as you communicate with people, they are pretty understanding. Now, if you just ignore things, and that's where, because there is not a single client that we have that if I said, hey, I am out with my family right now, I'll get back to you in the morning, because again, there's no emergency,
Yeah.
no one would be like, this is unacceptable.
Yeah.
They would say, yeah, yeah, definitely. Tomorrow is fine. They're just sending you things whenever they need to. It was our own self-importance, I think, that made us have to take care
Yeah.
of it, and still does. I'm not going to lose a client because I waited 12 hours to answer the email instead of one.
Yeah.
There's not a single one.
It's like we have this hero complex a little bit where you
Mhm.
have to overperform and impress. But the work that I do is no more impressive if I drop everything else to do it right now or if I do
Mm-mm.
it when I have the scheduled ability to do it.
Mhm.
It's really no more impressive.
That's exactly right. And the hero kind of complex, right? We're just high achievers. It comes back to being high achievers. We want to impress people with our amazing work,
Yeah.
and we can do that tomorrow between
Yeah.
9 and 5,
Yeah, but it's like it's almost like I wanna be, like on Bewitched, I just wanna, like, wiggle my nose and make it so, and it doesn't work that way. It doesn't
Mm-mm.
have to work that way. You don't have to be Johnny on the spot and do things immediately and really great when you can. It feels so good,
Yeah.
but it doesn't you don't have to live your life that way because that's where burnout creeps in and, you
Yep.
know, I think one of my biggest takeaways in this whole conversation is, for the most part, I think we are personally responsible for so much of our burnout based on uh, sometimes a lack of self-awareness and lack of boundaries and priorities, and sometimes just not even taking the time to sit back and think, like, what can I actually do to impact this and make it better than what it has been. But I'm also learning that burnout doesn't just steal your energy, right? It's stealing your connection with other people, and it's making your personal relationships collateral damage to maybe a job that you love, maybe the worst job ever. But like, I also know that when I die, I don't think anybody's going to be talking about the really great websites that I build at my funeral.
Probably not.
If they
Probably
are,
not
like,
because
what have I contributed to this world?
but life is about relationships. I mean, it's
Yeah.
when you think of the reason that we're here, it's not like my purpose on earth is not to do other people's social media,
Yeah.
right? It's about how you make people feel, right? So what those relationships look like, and no one's going to be like, she made the best social media posts for us. They're going to be like,
No one's
I
gonna
loved
care.
I loved their team. They were always so fun, and like it just I don't know. It's just a priority thing. That's what it comes
Mhm.
back down to. And again, just to reiterate, like how you kind of repair this damage, we talked about communication. We talked about reprioritizing and setting the boundaries and all the things. And it might not be enough, right? You might be in a job where you cannot do that. Like they're like, listen, I know that you said that you want to prioritize your family, but working 90 hours a week, which is what we need from you, that does not make that an option. And then you might be job hunting, you know?
Yeah.
And because there are jobs that pay great money, as much as you need to make, that do allow the work-life balance if you set those priorities. And I think that we've said that that's a drinking game. I think in this episode, you'd be wasted. We said it a lot.
Oh my gosh. If you take a drink every time we say priorities or boundaries, you's gonna be drunk.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, I think this is a really great conversation. It's always something that I like to come back around to because it's really easy to get lost in the sauce. It's really easy to, look at a to-do list and just dive at it. And I still catch myself where, the kids will come home from school and they're like, "Are you still working?" And I'm like, "Every day I'm still working when you get home from school. Like, what? This is not different." But then there are some times where I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna put it away and we'll
Yeah, some
go
things
grab
can
something to
wait.
eat or whatever."
Yeah.
And so to have this kind of check in a little bit more often to make sure that your priorities are where you want them to be and they're aligned with what actually means something to you, then it's not a set it and forget it kind of thing. It is something that you have to continually keep a check on.
Yeah. Maybe a monthly gut check of, is this working? Am I getting any pushback? Am I spending as much time with the people in my life? Am I feeling any resentment from the people in my life? Have I had any fights in the last month about my working hours?
Mhm.
Is this something that I can fix? Because it
Yeah.
might not be, right? Like if somebody has really weird expectations about, if Dan was like, I mean, I only work a couple hours a day. You should really only be working a couple hours a day. It would be sorry, bud, you got to change your expectation of that
Yeah.
because what I need to do takes a little bit longer than a couple hours a day
Yeah. We don't
most
have
of
the
the
same
time.
job.
No. And luckily, he doesn't have that expectation, but have come up with priorities together of I am not going to work every evening like I used to. And I think I only did that because that was what I was always used to.
Because it
And
was
so
routine.
yeah, it's like that's what I did, and it's also when I get the most creative, which is just super frustrating. But it's like we have done that gut check together. And then we talk about it sometimes when I'm watching a podcast in bed,
Yeah.
and he's like, when are you going to be done? And I'm like, and he's not coming at me with
Yeah.
any vitriol but I'm like, I'm going against what we said because of situations that have come up. But I have to think about those things and go, how can I prioritize my days? Because I don't have to watch podcasts at 10 p.m. I don't have to if I fix it. Like if I prioritize my days. So we have to think about it all the time and just make sure that we're putting relationships first. But also thinking about, if you don't care about relationships and you want to put your career first, do it. Do it. Like whatever makes
Yeah,
you
this
the happiest
episode's
in the
not
world.
for you if that's the
No.
case.
No, and there's no hate there, because
No.
I think that a lot of people spend a certain part of their life building their career, and then they make the second half of their life all about relationships. Please do it. Or if you just are like, I hate people and I just want to be good at work, then go do that. But there's no shade at all there. But if you're feeling like there is any sort of in relationships, especially because of your work schedule, see if you can fix
Yeah,
it.
it's just a gut check. Just a gut check. Well, I'm grateful for our gut checks and I appreciate the
Mhm.
conversation. Hopefully
Yes.
this sparks other people to have their own gut checks and we want to hear about it. Send us some comments. What are you
Yeah.
learning from this small little gut check of figuring out where your priorities are?
Yeah. That's great. And please share this with someone who you know might be struggling through this exact same thing. We would love for them to hear it, and send us your stories and your secrets. We're still waiting on secrets. We want to
Yeah.
tell all of them at thecorporateburnouts.com. You can share your secret anonymously and we will read it to the class. So send those over.
All right. Thanks, Mandy. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.